Hello, my name is Shyam Wagle. Today I am going to introduce you some fundamental interoperability as well as security and privacy related standards of Internet of Things IoT. Before presenting you standards and standardization activities, I would like to give you a short background of IoT. So what is IoT? In short, it refers to a network of networks connecting billions of devices to collect and share data around the world. According to ISO IEC 20924, it is an infrastructure of interconnected entities, people, systems, and information resources together with services which processes and reacts to information from the physical and virtual world. It means it interconnects people, system, and information resources. This picture shows an example of IoT building blocks. In general, any component connected to the network can be an IoT component if it has at least the following capabilities. The component should be able to sense and actuate the environment. This is called transducer capability. The component should have data capabilities, meaning that it should be able to store, process, and transfer the data. And the component should have interface capability, meaning that it should be able to interface with other component or system. Related to IoT standardization, ISO IEC GTC1 is a joint committee of ISO and IEC which covers most of the application sectors as well as consumer and industrial market. In this presentation, I present you some standards published and ongoing from this committee, mainly from one of its subcommittee SC41 dedicated to IoT from the viewpoint of IoT foundational and interoperability. In addition to this, I present you some standards from SC27 which is dedicated to security and privacy from the viewpoint of basic guidelines and requirements for IoT security and privacy. Apart from that, I will also try to cover some activities of HC, which is a European standards organization and deals with telecommunications, broadcasting, and other electronic communication networks and services including IoT to develop related standards, notably on security and privacy requirements for consumer IoT. Let's start with some IoT fundamental standards. The first is ISO IEC 20924 IoT Vocabulary. Its first version was published in 2018 by ISO IEC GTC1 SC41, defining IoT along with a set of terms and definitions, forming a terminology foundation for the IoT. The latest version, updated in early 2021, includes an additional set of terms and definitions to adapt ongoing trends of IoT technology. You can see here it defines IoT specific terminologies and generic terminologies which apply to other IT or ICT technologies as well. For a common architecture of IoT, there is a standard developed by ISO IEC GTC1 SC41 called ISO IEC 30141 IoT Reference Architecture. It provides an accepted IoT reference architecture using a common vocabulary, reusable designs, and industry-based practices. It uses a top-down approach, beginning with collecting the most important characteristics of IoT, abstracting those into a generic IoT concept set model, deriving a high-level system-based reference with subsequent dissection of that model into 5 architecture views from different perspectives. As technology is evolving, it is being updated to cope up with the recent IoT trends, which is expected to be published soon. Similarly, series of interoperability standards which are crucial these days in the given context where IoT has been implemented almost all sectors of the society. These standards provide guidelines to be able to communicate and exchange data among entities in different domains or between different IoT systems, to understand the meaning of exchange data, and finally to work an IoT service with other. Different aspects are considered to be able to interoperate among entities. They can be transport, semantic, syntactic, behavioral, and policy. These are also called facets of the IoT interoperability. ISO IEC 21823 Interoperability for IoT Systems Part 1 Framework is a foundational model which develops an interoperability framework and provides an overview of those facets mentioned before, namely transport, semantic, syntactic, behavioral, and policy. Part 2 Transport Interoperability, which specifies a framework and requirements for transport interoperability to enable the construction of IoT systems with information exchange, peer-to-peer connectivity, and seamless communication within the same IoT system and between different IoT systems. Part 3 Semantic Interoperability, which provides requirements of the core ontologies for semantic interoperability and best practices. Part 4 Syntactic Interoperability is ongoing standard which intends to specify IoT interoperability from a syntactic point of view. In addition to ISO IEC 21823 series, another ongoing standard ISO IEC 30161 requirements of IoT data exchange platform for various IoT services is expected to provide a guideline to exchange data among IoT and non-IoT platforms. As you know, security and privacy is another major concern for IoT implementations. As listed here, ISO IEC 27030 Guidelines for Security and Privacy in IoT, ISO IEC 27400 IoT Security and Privacy Guidelines, and ISO IEC 27402 IoT Security and Privacy Device Baseline Requirements are some of the ongoing standards related to IoT. These standards are being developed within ISO IEC JTC1 SC27 Information Security, Cybersecurity and Privacy Protection. This subcommittee is responsible for the development of standards for the protection of information and ICT, including IoT. It includes generic methods, techniques, and guidelines to address both security and privacy aspects. Other standards related to IoT trustworthiness framework and guidelines are being developed within a subcommittee ISO IEC JTC1 SC41. While overviewing IoT security and privacy related standards, it is also important to be familiar with the standards developed by HC. A published standard ETSI EN 303645 Cybersecurity for Consumer IoT baseline requirements is expected to have a high impact to its stakeholders ranging from IoT implementers to regulators. This standard is publicly available. It specifies high-level security and data protection provisions for consumer IoT devices that are connected to network infrastructure such as the internet or home network and their interactions with associated services. It recommends different provisions based on their requirements. For example, some are mandatory provisions indicated as M, some are recommended provisions indicated as R, and some are mandatory requirements but conditional indicated as MC, and some are recommended but conditional provisions indicated as RC. You can see here a list of examples of consumer IoT devices included in this standard. HC has recently published a technical specification ETSI TS103701 on cybersecurity for consumer IoT conformance assessment of baseline requirements, which provides a conformance assessment methodology for consumer IoT devices, their relation to associated services, and corresponding relevant processes against ETSI TS103645 and ETSI EN 303645. To cover several sectors of the society apart from previously mentioned committees, JTC1 SC41, in coordination with other technical committees, is working to develop standards on different sectors such as industrial IoT, smart manufacturing, digital twin, and smart energy sector. For example, with IEC TC65 for industrial process measurement focusing on smart manufacturing as well as industrial IoT, with ISO 184 for automation system and integration focusing on digital twin sector, with IEC SYC smart energy on smart energy sector, and with IEC TC57 on power systems management and associated information exchange. All published standards can be consulted free of charge via one of the following reading stations. As you can see the list here, the reading stations are spread across the country in the south, center, and the city of Estermark. All the published national, European, and international standards from different STOs listed here can be purchased via ILNAS eShop at competitive price. You can buy them in your preferred language. If you would like to get more information on concept behind IoT, potential application domains, and recent development in IoT related technical standardization, please refer to our publications dedicated to IoT. For example, IoT white paper published in 2018 together with the Ministry of the Economy and National Technical Standardization Report on IoT published in 2020, which are publicly available on our website. There is also a possibility to contribute to the development of IoT and related standards. In order to be involved in the standards development process, you can register as an expert in a national mirror committee through which you will be able to participate in the work items of different ISO, IEC and their joint committees as mentioned before. For your information, ILNAS, the National Standards Body of Luxembourg, proposes a free registration to all its national stakeholders. The registration can be done by means of a registration form available on ILNAS website. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. In addition to IoT related standards, I will be also your contact point for other ICT topics such as telecommunications including 5G, digital twin, smart cities, smart manufacturing, intelligent transport systems, and so on. If you have any questions concerning the presentation or you have an interest to be part of the standardization community, do not hesitate to contact us by phone or by email indicated here. For more details, you can also visit our website. So, thank you.